What's up guys, Luke here with Luke's Points and Miles. Today I want to do a quick little fun video. I've realized that too many of my videos have been on the negative side lately, so I wanted to put some positive energy out there in the YouTube space. And today I want to talk about my 5 favorite credit cards right now. Now, before I start, this isn't the 5 best credit cards out there. This is my 5 favorite that I'm using right now. So if you like videos about credit cards or even just about lists, feel free to support the channel by slapping that like button. And if you really want to keep up with credit cards, points, miles, cash back, and travel, consider subscribing. Before I start listing, let's talk about the actual criteria. I use credit cards for just about everything they can possibly provide. This means I'm not on a team, but I travel on average about once a month, and that includes family travel, solo, domestic, international, and from economy to first class. I do it all. I also use credit cards to earn cash back, which I use to either purchase travel points or to subsidize my trips. So I think I have a little something for everyone on this list. Let's get to it, shall we? This list is in no particular order, but the card I have found myself using the most lately is the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Now, I'm not going to do a full review on this card since I've only recently upgraded to it, but for the last 3 months or so, I've used this card for all my airline purchases, which is mostly taxes and fees. It's also used for things like airport parking and Lyft rides as well. I've also booked about half of my domestic economy flights using the Chase Travel Portal to take advantage of that 50% points boost in the Ultimate Rewards portal. I've gotten to the point where I don't spend a ton of time looking for great domestic economy redemptions. I found that for domestic, and it's a relatively short trip, the actual schedule for me is much more important than the deal. Also, as far as I know, the Chase travel protections really can't be beat, so I justify this hefty $550 annual fee with the peace of mind that comes with those protections. What else makes this card a favorite? Well, at some point it will likely take over dining duties, but right now this card is allowing me to visit the new Chase lounges. Chase is still building out their network, and well, so far I'm not super impressed, but I do value lounge access higher than most folks, especially since I just paid $160 to eat lunch at a dumpy Margaritaville at FLL in Fort Lauderdale. So to wrap it up, this is my main travel card, soon to be main dining card, and it's used for economy redemptions. Also guys, if you are interested in any of the cards I talk about today, or most other cards as well, I do have a super cool organized card link in the description below. Using that link does support my channel and allows me to continue making this content. If you've used my link in the past, I sincerely appreciate it. Next up on my list of current favorites is the Capital One Venture X. You guys are likely tired of listening to me talk about this card, so I'll try to make this one quick. The Capital One Venture X can be used as a primary travel card, but for me it really makes its living as the catch-all. When I say catch-all, I mean more than just purchases that aren't part of a bonus category. This card earns double miles on everything, which I like a lot more than a 2% cash back catch-all. The Venture X and actually all the Capital One cards, none of them have foreign transaction fees, so it can always be in your wallet. Another reason why this card may always be on my list of favorites is for the Capital One lounge access. Now, I could be critical and say that there still aren't many Capital One lounges out there, but I seem to get a chance to visit Dallas DFW and Washington Dulles often enough, and I'm even guilty of scheduling some of my overseas flights out of Dulles just to have access to that Capital One lounge and experience that. The final reason this card is a favorite is the synergy it creates with another Capital One card, the Saver One. I've talked so much about the Saver One, I left it off this list for now, but I will say that the Capital One Venture X complements all my setups, from the 10 card complex setup all the way down to the duo that I use when I travel overseas. Best part of this card is that I really don't need to do much to justify that relatively high $395 annual fee. It comes with a super easy to use $300 travel credit and a 10,000 Capital One mile bonus yearly. So for me, it doesn't get much more convenient than that. I can't see this card ever leaving my wallet unless that value prop changes drastically. And even though this card has faced so much criticism, the annual fee has remained the same since its inception. Next up, we have the Citi Strata Premier. I've always been a huge fan of this card. It gives me access to the Citi transfer partners, which I value highly. And I want to mention something quickly on why I like to collect points and miles from different issuers. Some will say it dilutes the earnings and makes it harder to build a lot of points with one issuer. That might be true, but for me, I disagree, and I think having points in as many different ecosystems gives me a higher chance to take advantage of transfer bonuses, which for me is really how I get the most value out of the 4 or 5 partners that I use pretty regularly. The Strata Premier earns 3 times on groceries, dining, and gas. This comes in handy when I'm traveling and I really want to reduce the number of cards I carry. I also want to point out that the 3 times on groceries is worldwide. And your Uncle Luke likes to stop at the grocery store when I'm overseas, especially if I'm staying at a more basic hotel that might not have everything I need. Nothing wrong with stocking up on some waters and ibuprofen, especially when you're doing some of those all-day tours. This card is pretty basic with a $99 annual fee, but Citi doesn't seem to mind waiving that fee every year as long as you call them and ask. Another way to make the fee make sense is the card has a $100 hotel credit when you book a hotel stay of at least $500 through the Citi portal. Most folks say they can't do that, and I understand, but I booked my Panama hotel in this way and I earned the credit and 10 times thank you points on the purchase, so I don't think it's a bad option once a year. $500 isn't a ton of money for a hotel stay, but I can understand why it's not worth it for folks that have hotel loyalty and don't like booking outside of that. On top of all that, the Strata Premier is a World Elite MasterCard, so it has some additional benefits and it can be used for programs like Simply Miles if you like the point stack for American Airlines miles. So although the Strata Premier doesn't do anything really special, it does a lot for a reasonable price. And I have to mention that holding the Strata Premier also has a huge synergistic effect, making the Citi Custom Cash exponentially more powerful, earning 5 times transferable thank you points. Now we switch gears just a little. I love travel, and I've often talked about my goals to raise my son in the style of an American James Bond, meaning I'm exposing him to different cultures in as many parts of the world as possible, but I also understand that cash is a great complement to travel points. So one of my favorite cards is the AAA Daily Advantage Visa Signature Card. This one's pretty simple. It earns in a few different ways, but the only thing that really matters to me is that the card earns 5% cash back at grocery stores with a $10,000 yearly cap. It's $500 cash back a year at the grocery store with 0 annual fee. I think it makes a ton of sense when I compare this card to the grocery store competition. And we're a family that will likely spend over $15,000 this year at the grocery store. And you also might be surprised at all the merchants that code as groceries with this card. The cap doesn't bother me because I have points earning cards that do rotate in throughout the year. This card also has no foreign transaction fees, which is awesome, and you don't have to be a AAA member to apply for the card. I'm a huge fan of simple, no annual fee, 5% cashback cards, and I think this one is one of the best. Finally, the 5th card on this list is the OP Amex Hilton Aspire card. This one isn't as versatile as the others because you really do need to stay at Hilton hotels for this card to work. But for me, I like to stay at higher end Hilton hotels and resorts for a large portion of my travel. We prefer Hiltons, Waldorf Astorias, and Conrad properties for our aspirational type stuff. And we stay more than 10 nights a year at those types of properties. More on why that's important later. This is not a full review of the card, but I'll mention why it makes so much sense for me. See, I value the diamond status more than any other benefit. So many folks are critical of diamond status, especially domestically, and for pretty good reason. So why do I value it? Well, here's the deal. Internationally, diamond status is likely to be a huge benefit, at least sometimes. But for me, it's the food and beverage credit, which ironically you also get with just gold status. See, at Conrad's and Waldorf's, I'm collecting $50 a day in food and beverage credits. And yes, I am someone who eats, drinks, and relaxes at the hotel when I travel. See, I know I'll be at higher end Hiltons at least 10 nights a year, and during that time, I'm going to be earning $500 just in food and beverage credits. Any upgrades I get during that time, they're just icing on the cake. Now, throw in a free uncapped night and $400 in resort credits. Now, I will admit the resort credits being biannual might be a pain in the butt if you don't normally stay at resorts. The quarterly airline credits can also be annoying, but for some reason, I don't mind them because I can easily liquidate those credits in a matter of minutes from my house, and I don't have to buy anything I wouldn't normally buy. I think the X factor for me is, even though there is a little work involved, my entire family benefits from this card in a way that really is life-changing for me. Moving forward, I don't think I'll be holding 2 of these cards, but it's still one of my 5 favorite cards, and it has been for a very long time. Guys, I hope you got some type of entertainment from this video and maybe a sneak peek on how I use some of these cards. And just a quick reminder, if you want more information about any of these cards, check out my super cool organized card link in the description below. And if you have stayed all the way to the end, I appreciate you, and I want to thank every single one of you.